Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, America's #1 podcast for new real estate investors, where finding discounted properties is the most proven way to financial freedom. I am your host, Chris Arnold, today, and we've got a topic actually that I'm pretty passionate about today. And we are talking about retail leads and the money that we as investors are leaving on the table when we throw these into the trash. So if you're new to real estate, let me kind of break this down. Every seller that comes to you will fall into one of two camps. Either they're going to want a cash offer because they're motivated, they have equity, they're ready to go. Obviously, you want to tie those deals up. But you are going to get leads, and it doesn't matter if it's direct mail, radio, whatever, where they're just not as motivated. They might not have as much equity. And really, the best solution for them is to list the property on the MLS and for you to receive a commission, or as we're going to talk about, maybe even outsource that to an agent if you're not. Now, I'll tell you three things I've realized. Either number one, if you're listening, you think that retail leads are trash. And we are going to challenge you on that today because my guest has cracked the code on how to convert these. And these are leads coming in directly from everything that we do to get motivated sellers. The second camp understands they're leaving money on the table, but they're struggling to convert these leads from coming in as cash and over to retail. And then thirdly, which is far and few between, are people that have mastered this. And my guest today, Chris Craddock, is the go-to guy on retail and how to convert these leads. And we're going to give you the practical steps you need today to be able to do that. So, Chris Craddock, my buddy, what's up? Welcome to the show, man.
What's up, brother? So excited to hang with you today, man. Always fun. Love the energy you bring and love just hanging with you, man. It's great.
Awesome. Well, for people that might not know you, tell us a little bit about you in a nutshell. Where are you at? What you do? What's your story?
Yeah, I'm right outside the DC area. Got into real estate. I work for a ministry making 20 grand a year, which I loved until my wife got pregnant, and you can't live in the DC area on 20 grand a year. And so started flipping houses in the early 2000s, made 12 times what I made in a year in 4 months. And I was like, dang, this is sweet. And just through off and on being involved in real estate, I guess 2012 started more investing stuff again. And then moved into more retail with a strong tie-in with investors. And we because of the investor and retail kind of marriage together, I think we found some ways to make a lot of money on leads that a lot of people have just been thrown away.
Yeah. And you and I have that in common because I actually started on the retail brokerage agent side, however you want to call that, before I moved into the investment side. So you and I look at real estate a little bit differently because we've been in both worlds and are currently in both worlds. So I want to talk about the background on this model, right? You have cracked the code on how to convert cash offer leads that we generate when they want to go retail to make that transition. Give us a story. Like, how did this model even come about? How did you start to crack the code on it?
Well, see, it was interesting. So there's two separate side stories. The first one was there was this guy who was just charging a fortune to, kind of come into his program, or he was going to market for you for agents that could either do cash deals or close the leads. And so a bunch of people came into his program. Nobody was converting. Nobody was doing anything except for me. I was converting a lot of them. And I ended up kind of starting to run a lot of the meetings that they were having. And eventually I was like, wait, this isn't, I don't want to pay to be a part of this program anymore if, I'm like the one converting these. And so things kind of slowed down there. And then there was this massive wholesaler, one of the bigger ones in the country that, they're just doing a lot of business. And I kept calling them and I was like, guys, give me your leads. Come on, let me show you how this works.
So this wholesaler was not doing anything with their retail leads. They were generating a ton of leads, spending a lot of money, but weren't doing anything with those that wanted to list their property.
Well, they've been giving him to this person who is, she had a pretty massive business herself, top 200 Wall Street, top 200 for, or top 250 for, real estate agents. And and she closed like 6 leads out of the 1,000 they gave her. So they just didn't care. They're like, oh, whatever, it's a distraction. We're not making any money. They just didn't care about that. And so I just kept calling and calling. And, you know, anybody that knows me, I mean, I'm relentless. Like, I just don't like to give up. And so finally they said, one of the guys was just like, look, we'll send you some leads. He sent me 150 leads. 70 of them had already listed with an agent. 30 of them were out of area. So, I mean, I had less than 50 leads to deal with. And I'm like, okay, she got 6 with 1,000. I got to get 6 with these. So, I mean, I just went at it, you know, got creative, you know, like refined some of the scripts and some of the offers and some of the ways we could land them. And I called him up and I was like, hey bro, I got 6 listings. They've all closed, or they're all in the process of closing. And he was just, you got 6 of them? He's like, bro, I just gave you those to shut you up and leave me alone. He's like, cause like you just kept calling me and it wouldn't stop bugging me. He's like, come in. So then I came in and we started meeting and they started sending us a lot more, and our conversion ratio has gone up. And I mean, honestly, we've just been working on refining the whole process, refining our script, refining the offers. And that's how we got here. It's been a good.
That's interesting. So now this wholesaler is sending you all of these retail leads, and let's actually talk some numbers here. You and I were talking about this. How many listings did you get from this wholesaler's leads that you listed in 2019?
So between them and there's also there's some smaller ones, but over, just over 100 listings last year.
Over 100 listings last year from wholesalers that were taking those leads and not really doing much with them, didn't care.
Absolutely.
Let's put that into perspective of volume. How much volume is that roughly?
Oh man, now you're gonna make me do some math. So the volume, last year we did just under 120 million in volume. That was about a quarter, like over 20 million in volume.
Wow, I love it.
Probably right around 20 million in volume. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the upside of this model? If someone's listening and they're like, you know, why should I consider this? I mean, hopefully you bought onto the fact that there's money sitting on the table for wherever you at, but what have you seen as the upside to this model?
Oh my gosh, it's the biggest win-win in the history of time, right? You look at it and I just talked to investor after, I live in the investor world as well as the kind of retail agent world. And I talked to investor after investor who's like, I've been giving agents this, I've started my own brokerage. I've done everything. I've spent money on this. I've spent time on this. It's just not worth my time anymore because they give it to agents, and these agents don't know how to approach it. They don't understand the marriage between this. They don't understand the psychology. Somebody that calls an investor to buy their house is not the same person that wants some agent to walk over and, crack out their listing presentation, because they've all got an uncle's brother who also cuts hair and is a real estate agent that will help them if they want to talk to a real estate agent. They want a quick, easy, fast transaction. They want something that is not like the traditional real estate agent, because they know it's just like we all know if we sell our car, right? Go to Craigslist and you're going to sell your car for more money than if you go to the dealership and trade it in. But why do people go to the dealership? Because they want ease. They just don't want the headache. That's why people call investors. They don't want the headache, anyway, we know the reasons why they're calling.
So let me ask you this. What percentage of these retail listings you're taking are you doing over the phone versus having to go out to the property?
Well, so last year, as we were building out our system last year, I took most of them over the phone, and almost all the ones that are short sales, I'm taking over the phone, because bottom line is you can close over the phone if you know. I don't know. The main thing is I was just listening to a leadership thing this morning and talking about anticipating. The main thing is if you know every single objection they're going to have and you answer the objection before they have it, before they dig in, and all of a sudden you've answered every objection that they have, you can close them over the phone. You know what they want, you give them what they want. They say, all right, let's do it. And so
that's huge. So not only are you taking advantage of making more capital on the leads or revenue, you're not even having to leave your office to do it. Now, there's a couple people listening. Obviously, the person that's listening as an investor, as a wholesaler that has their license, they're going, okay, I get this. Now, what would you say to the wholesaler that's listening, that's generating leads going, okay, I don't really have an interest in getting licensed myself, but I hear what you're saying. I'm not doing anything with those retail leads. What do you recommend for that investor to consider that's not a licensed real estate agent?
Yeah. So a number of the investors, most of the investors that I work with, either are licensed, have somebody licensed on their team. The other piece is, just get together with somebody that's good at what they do. And again, just because they're good at what they do doesn't mean they know how to convert these types of leads. And then find a creative solution, because obviously, the real estate rules and regulations, are not allowed. You're not allowed to give referrals to non-licensed agents, but there are ways that you can buy marketing, you can do different things. There's just creative solutions to everything, where you're not giving a referral or a kickback to somebody for giving a lead, but you are doing something where you are joint venturing together to buy leads, to do whatever, where money comes in. So.
All right. So there's three options for those that are listening, right? I can either get licensed myself. I might say, I don't want to get licensed because, I don't want to have a fiduciary duty and have to disclose that. Not interested from a legal standpoint. Number two, I could get someone on my team licensed that works for me and not have to carry that license myself. Or thirdly, I could say, I'm just going to stay away from licensing as a whole, as myself or my organization, and I'm just going to find someone outside of me to partner with that's licensed to take these leads. So those are the three options. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what I found is a lot of times stay in your lane. So our conversion ratio, I had a pretty darn good conversion ratio over the phone last year, but our conversion ratio went up when people got in front of the sellers. Now we had a darn good conversion ratio last year, but getting in front of the sellers. So I've been training our agents to get in front of the sellers and do that. So as their conversion ratios have gone up, we've been seeing that, allowing the wholesalers, the investors to stay in their lane, let us stay in our lane. Just because, you go in and you offer somebody, about 200 grand or 150 grand or 50 grand under what they would get on the open market. It is hard to kind of come back from that and then say, well, I can list it for you too. So that's where I think being able to work together, once you figure out where they're going to be, because you kind of want to, we all know you don't want to walk into an appointment blind. You want to know what they're looking for. And it's rare that you walk in and, all of a sudden somebody wants a certain amount and then they'll go 50% less than what they're asking for.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of
I have a couple more questions around this, a little bit more practically. Sure. If I do have a license, or I get someone in my company license and we go out and list these properties ourselves, if you don't mind sharing, what's the range that we should be charging as a commission? Is it your traditional 6%?
Bro, I almost never get 6%. I get more. I get more
than 6%.
Almost on almost all of them. And here's why. If you understand how you're walking in, if you understand it, you understand that they have a problem. So you're a doctor, right? I've had 3 shoulder surgeries on my left one and 1 on my right. I had to go back in because I jacked up my shoulder again. Doctor starts doing all these tests on my arm, like literally all these tests. Does this hurt? Does this hurt? No. He does something called the crank test, and he says that. I squealed like a little girl. And he's like, I guess that hurts. So then he does, and then he does it again, right? So he finds the pain, he pushes on it a number of times, and then he's able to diagnose it and then, provide a prescription. And for me, sadly, it looks like maybe another shoulder surgery. But that's what we do with these sellers, right? That's a good salesperson. You find the pain and then you push on it over and over and over again. And then you say, I can solve that problem for you. Here's how. And you just go through the whole process. You solve their problem. And as long as they're getting the solution to their problem, I've charged 9% commission. It doesn't matter. As long as they are getting a solution to their problem, you can win.
Wow, that's huge, because I think most people are thinking, well, I got to charge 6% or discount this and this strategy in order to beat out an agent. But you've come up with a way strategically to get in and actually charge more than 6. You said 7, maybe 8, maybe 9%. And that's actually getting into more wholesale numbers in the sense of percentage, because 9% of, right, a $200,000 listing, that's not bad. That's equal to what we get on the wholesale side. So second question for you. I'm listening and I'm going, I'm not going to get licensed, but dude, I'm all over this. I'm going to go find an agent that I trust to JV with. What should my split be if I'm providing these retail leads that I'm generating, right, via direct mail or ringless voicemail, et cetera? What should that split be that I should negotiate for?
Yeah, it just all depends. I mean, what are you doing? Are you setting appointments for them? Are you just giving them the leads?
I think most people would just say, I'm just going to give them the lead.
Right. And see, what I would say is part of the system that we've worked to build out, and a system that I've been, that I've really been perfecting is, when you set the appointment, it ends up being better. And you can also charge more when you set the appointment, because you're on the phone, or your VA or your, specialist, whoever it is that's taking the calls, is on the phone, and they're either going to set an appointment for themselves, they're going to pre-qualify them out, or why they're already on the phone. Why wouldn't they just set an appointment for whoever you're partnering with? You can charge more money. If you just give them the lead, I'd say it's like 25% is kind of what you're looking at.
Okay. So you hand the lead over, you don't set the appointment yourself, you can get 25% referral back, right?
Yeah.
And then let me ask this question. If you do go ahead and set the appointment and not hand a lead, but an appointment to the agent, what could you maybe get in that circumstance?
I mean, the sky's the limit. Anywhere from I'd say, 35% is if you're doing enough. If you're just giving one here and there, it's, but if you're giving a number of leads, 35%, and you can even go up to partnering 50-50 if you're doing enough value. But
so that range could be 35 to 50, depending on how far you take that lead down the road before you pass the baton to the agent. So each person can kind of consider that. But I would imagine the wholesaler that you're working with, the main one's probably pretty happy with the return they're getting by giving you those leads.
They're going to get well over $250,000 in return this year.
They're going to get over $250,000 in additional revenue from leads they passed to you that were retail that otherwise they might have been just throwing in the trash or fumbling themselves.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's huge. This month alone.
And that's what I see, Chris. That's kind of my deal. When I talk to someone and they go, I don't really like those retail leads, don't know what to do with them, I'm going ding, ding, ding. Like, you're leaving money on the table. Like, do you realize that? Take a different look at it, because there's a lot of money to be made around this. So let's get into how you convert these practically, right? Give some tips and tricks, if you don't mind, on what's the process, a little bit of the magic behind how you're doing what you're doing.
Well, the reason why, I've kind of created, it's like 17 steps that, that we go through. So I'll just go through like a handful of them, because I know we don't have like, we don't have 5 hours to go through it all. But here's the biggest key. And if you can get your head around this is why everybody's so shocked about the commission statement. You were just shocked about the commission statement. Like, this is why everybody's so shocked, because everybody thinks you're coming in as an agent. As soon as you come in as an agent, you've lost. You're going to get what everybody else gets. You're going to get a small conversion ratio. When you come in as the person, they're calling a cash buyer, right? They're calling somebody in that can make stuff happen. And for whatever reason, their pain or their perceived pain, when you walk in as the solution, as the person, the doctor with the prescription, you can get them what they want. And you can charge whatever you want. But that's the whole thing. The second you walk in as an agent, everybody's got 14,000 friends that are agents, right? They don't need you.
So if you're not walking in as the agent, how are you presenting yourself to them? Because you're going, hey, cash offer is not going to work. But I mean, how do you make that jump? What do you call yourself?
Yeah, you're a value specialist, right? You're
value specialist.
You're coming in and I love that, where, you partner with the investors, right? So you're coming in partnered with the investor. So, you're walking and in sales, we're familiar with the law of edification, the edification technique in sales, right? Where Chris, you could say, hey, I'm Chris Arnold. I'm the best at this. And everybody be like, oh, you sound like a douche. But if I say, hey, Chris Arnold is the best at this, everybody's like, yeah, Chris probably is the best at this, you know? And so that's that whole thing where somebody else can speak really highly of you. And you walk in as the expert already. You walk in as somebody that has, because they called in or whatever the response was, they wanted to meet with somebody. So you're already walking in as the expert, right? So you're walking in with permission to walk in to do that. If you're an agent, you know, and 10 other agents have walked in, you know, whatever, you're coming to solve the problem that they have agreed they want solved.
Got it. So number one, don't identify yourself as the agent. Identify yourself as an evaluation specialist to separate yourself from all the other agents they might be talking to potentially, or no.
Right.
What's number two?
Well, and a licensed agent has to identify their brokerage, but you can say it in passing, like, yeah, I'm also licensed with whatever, but you're not coming in as the agent.
Yeah, you're not identifying yourself, but you are disclosing the fact that you do have a license. But those are two different things, right? A lot of investors have licenses and aren't even agents. So what's the second thing that we should understand about making this conversion?
The second thing is you got to understand their pain, right? If you don't understand their pain, like everybody's going to, I mean, and everybody on this podcast that's closing at a high level understands a real reason and the smoke screen, right? You know, they're going to give you like 10 other 10 reasons why they want to sell or whatever. You know, for me, and here's an example, when my shoulder was hurting, my lower back started hurting, right? So I go into the doctor and I'm getting my shoulder looked at, but I mentioned my lower back. He doesn't care about my lower back because the reason my lower back was hurting is because my shoulder, I'm holding my shoulder a little bit off, right? So the real pain is my shoulder. You fix the shoulder, all the other stuff falls into place. And so when you're there, you've got to be able to identify what is their pain. I want a quick sale. I don't want people coming in. I don't want my neighbors know. I don't want to clean up. I don't want whatever the pain is. You find out what their pain is, and then you solve that pain. They're going to give you 10 reasons why they're selling, or maybe their pain is they want to move to Florida with family, and you know they want to be there fast. You know, you got to figure that out and be able to identify that. A quick example of that.
Let me throw an example here. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball. You're talking with someone and they go, you know what, the listing route is the route I want to go. But number one, I don't want to come in and fix up my house for the MLS. And number two, I don't want people tromping through my house either. How do you solve that if you go the agent route?
Bro, this is the greatest thing ever. So actually one of the guys that I just trained was in an appointment who she worked for a brokerage for 15 years. Most of her best friends are agents. And she's like, if I'm going to list it, I have to work with one of them or they'll hate me. And so he's like, but here's the difference. We can list it like every other agent, but we have our model. Our model is separate. You don't want people coming in. We'll do our open house, you know, our investor open. And
so you're willing to go about whatever their need is and adjust the back end on how you treat them. Whereas the agent's just going to throw them on like a centralized showing, put a lockbox, a sign, because that's what the agent is trained to do. That system is built. You come in with a system that's customized to go around whatever pain point or preference they have. I love that. That's a great point. So give us a third technique, if you don't mind. Give us one more technique on how you convert these. Make it good. Yeah. Make it juicy.
So a third technique is, you know, if people have, let's say here's a big one. A lot of times people have just so much junk and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to fix all of this. I need an investor to buy it because I need to sell it as is. So the third technique is this. We've got a couple contractors that if we can't sell it as is, or if there's something that needs to be done, everybody's so scared of moisture, right? So we get a contractor that will come in and the roof has a leak. All right, well, we call it our homeowner help program, right? Where the contractor will come in, fix the roof leak, fix, the things that are going to cause like $5,000-$10,000 worth of damage that will cost us like $400 to do. And we'll get the contractor to do it now and get paid at closing. And if we're getting a big enough commission, I'll just pay for it up front and get paid back at closing, whatever.
Interesting. So you'll come in and handle some of those repairs because you feel like the juice is worth the squeeze and you're minimizing the risk.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just have one. I have one right now where, she was going to work with an agent friend of hers, and she just had going through a divorce, going through a number of different things, but had her house was just a disaster, and she's like, I can't sell it like this. And so I took a massive commission on it, and I was like, look, here's what I'm willing to do. We're going to sell it as is. And if it doesn't sell as is, then I'll come in. You're moved out. I don't want to do big, massive fixes unless people have moved out, because it'll get back like it was, right? And so you're moved out. So if it doesn't sell as is, then we'll come in, we'll do all the stuff. We get paid back at closing plus 10% of whatever we have to spend on, and also a little, some piece like that to the contractor.
Yeah. So what's interesting that I observe is you look at these deals not like an agent does, but as an investor. And you're doing obviously creative options based on whatever situation they're in, which again, the typical agent's not going to do. So what I hear you doing is you're coming in and providing a listing service, but you're doing it coming in thinking like a creative investor. How can I structure this deal? And again, you might charge more commission. You might negotiate this to do some repairs up front to protect yourself, et cetera. But it almost sounds like there's some really creative techniques that you come across each deal in the particular way that a solution is needed. And again, if you're listening right now, the big conversation that you'll continue to hear happening is, how are you identifying yourself as an investor and as a company? Are you just a wholesaler, or are you a solution-oriented person that comes in and says, you know what, regardless of what the outcome is, I'm here to provide the best solution for you, rather than getting locked into the fact that, well, the only solution I have in my pocket is to do a cash offer. And the more diverse you can make yourself in being solution oriented, the more likely, obviously, your conversions are going to go up, right? And the more money you're going to make, because you can look at deals in a different way. So let me ask you this question then, right? You gave us 3 great techniques to consider, and people are listening are in one of 2 camps at this point. Either I'm going to do this in-house and I'm going to figure out a way to build a system for me to list these, or I'm going to outsource this to someone else. Let's start with the outsourcing, right? I want to go find a partner to do with this. How do you find and know that you've got a good licensed person? How do you find that person? How do you identify that person, even know that they're going to do a great job and not drop the ball on these leads if we give it to them?
Yeah, no, that's been the problem, because I think almost everybody that spent much money on marketing has thought about this or tried it, and it just hasn't been successful, which is why people just throw it away, right? The system has not been proven well. So one, you got to find somebody who's creative, is going to work hard with it. Second, I mean, honestly, this is part of the school we're teaching. We're teaching agents how to do this. The product that we have, so that agents can learn the steps and the process with it. Because I mean, you just think about it. It does not take much. One deal, just can start changing the whole trajectory of your year. Especially, if you think about marketing, if you get like even a 3x ROI on your marketing, just think about what happens if you get $200,000 back into your company, right? If you get
you can zero base your marketing just based on the retail leads coming in, and what you make on the investment side is just pure profit. I mean, that's probably the ultimate goal, right? The way you think. How can I zero base my marketing expense via retail and allow the wholesale fix and flip side to be just straight revenue? That's a great way to look at it. So again, if someone is looking for an agent and doesn't want to do this themselves, right? Make sure that agent is creative, right? What would be maybe two more characteristics about that agent to look
I'd
for?
say make sure they're creative, make sure they're hungry, make sure they won't take no for an answer. And also it's got to be somebody that's got a high EQ as well. What I've found is on the disc profile, a lot of times you see a lot of agents that are closing at a high level, high Ds. Like a high D personality is really important, but a lot of these people are hurting, and there's stuff there. So if you're able to walk in, hear them, and relate with them, so they feel like they can trust you, you can walk in and you can close time after time after time, because you're there to give them a solution to their problem.
Okay. And if you heard that and you're like, what is a high D personality? That comes from the DISC profile, DISC, which is simply a profile that lets you understand how someone behaves. And if you hear high D, that usually means that person is very motivated, very driven, very aggressive, right? That's a high D personality. If I could bottom line that, they're a bulldog. They're a closer.
Yeah.
That's a high D. If you're like, what is a high D?
Coffees for closers.
Yeah. So Chris, to the other people that are listening going, you know what? I feel like I should do this in-house. Either I need to get licensed, get someone on my team licensed, but I don't know how to train them. This sounds fantastic, but you got 17 steps. You gave me 3. I'd love to know the rest. If someone's listening going, do you provide any training or help or assistance or coaching on this? What does that look like? Where could they go to potentially find out more?
Yeah, so my website, just my name, chriscraddock.com. They can go and register. I've got an agent training site where agent training program, where they can sign up to get in. They'll get all of the steps in order to close, in order to understand all of the sales techniques of closing these type of deals. And frankly, it should also help them, in their business, to close other deals as well. Because if you can sell, you can sell. If you can identify problems, you can sell. So chriscraddock.com, you'd be able to do that, and honestly create a great matchup between the investor and the agent that can help everybody monetize. So whether it's in your organization, or if you're getting paired up with another agent as well, honestly, you can put them.
Tell the other agent to go through your course.
I mean,
and just for people listening, this is a course, obviously, I understand that you're providing that not only trains the investor, it go on the other side and trains the agent as well. So it doesn't matter who you are, it's the same 17 steps that you need to follow. So Chris, this is fantastic. Any last thing you'd like to leave with the audience to consider, maybe a last nugget, last thought on this whole concept about not throwing these retail leads into the trash?
Yeah, I mean, literally, this is millions, and I mean, probably hundreds of millions of dollars of investors across the country that I just talk to, all the time. They're just throwing these leads away. You can literally zero base your marketing. You can win at a high level. But again, just because they're a good agent, it's just like going to a good doctor, right? You go to a good physician. I'm not going to go to my physician if I need to have heart surgery, right? You need to go to somebody that understands this kind of these kind of deals, these kind of sales. And I can promise you, I'm sure tons of people that are listening to this right now have tried this and failed and say, I don't want to put any more time. I don't want to put any money into it, anything else. So that's why we've kind of created this process that we've proven. Like, I've personally done it. I've taught other people to do it, and we've proven it so that people can actually monetize it and know this is going to work if you follow this process. If you walk in and know that this is how I have to frame the argument, this is how I have to set it up, and you can zero base your marketing.
Absolutely. No, it's fantastic. And man, I think that you've definitely identified, you and I have talked about this, a pain point that's out there, but underneath that pain is a huge opportunity for additional revenue for all of us. And also, if you're listening in, of course, you know that right now we are teaching people also how to find distressed properties utilizing radio. Chris, I know that that's something that you want to be able to launch this year. You and I have talked about that. And so right now, if you're kind of processing going, what am I going to do this year to find more discounted properties. I'm a little nervous about ringless voicemail regulations and that type of stuff, or my direct mails getting saturated. If you want to know more about radio, and again, when we advertise on radio, Chris, we get cash offer and we get retail, and we have equipped ourselves to make money either way. Doesn't matter to us. If you want a cash offer, we'll give it to you. If you want to list it, then we'll list it for you. And so, man, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You want to be able to kind of be bi-vocal on that. What I mean by that is like bi-vocational in the sense of being able to wear either hat. So if you're interested in radio, definitely book a call and ask more questions at wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. And Chris Craddock, thanks so much for coming on, addressing a huge problem in our, literally our entire market right now. I cannot believe how many times I have this conversation with people. And more importantly, congrats on really cracking the code on this thing. Somebody needed to do it, and we're glad you did it.
Well, thanks for having me, brother. You are a stud. Anybody is just blessed to be in business with you. So I'm glad that you're doing the radio piece. It's awesome. You're a stud. I just love hanging with you, man.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for joining the show, and we will catch you next time.
All right.